Hello and welcome to our workshop for the Gender 101 project. Today we'll be talking about the different stages of the coming out process for both the parent and the child. Gender can be a sensitive topic to talk about, so we want to make sure that as trainers you feel comfortable talking about the topic, and most of all that you create a safe space for parents where they feel that they can confidentially share their opinions. Some of you will be delivering your parents' workshops face to face, while others will be delivering them online. Regardless of what format you are using, it is important to remember that talking about gender identity can be a sensitive and emotive topic. So it is important that as trainers you create a safe and confidential space for your workshop participants, and that you remember that there may be interesting discussions, differing opinions and even disagreements, but that as trainers your role is to facilitate this conversation as best you can. To begin the workshop with the parents, we will ask you to spend 10 minutes doing a short icebreaker session in order to make the parents feel more comfortable with each other. As the topic of gender identity is such a sensitive topic, it is important to do something to get the parents to relax around each other. The icebreaker we suggest is 2 truths and a lie. In 2 truths and a lie, parents will be asked to choose 3 bits of information about themselves. 2 of those things should be true and 1 of those things should be a lie. For example, 3 pieces of information I might choose are: I have won an award for playing football, I love to sing, and I drive a Mini Cooper car. When I say my 3 pieces of information to the wider group, they try to guess which items are true and which one is the lie. In this case, the lie is that I drive a Mini Cooper car. As a trainer, you will go to each person in the group and give them the opportunity to take part in the icebreaker and say their 2 truths and a lie, and let the rest of the group guess which is true and which is false. In this next short clip, you will see this icebreaker being demonstrated.
I live in the Netherlands for 9 months, and my great-great-grandma was Japanese.
Sorry.
Are you alright?
Right.
Okay.
A safe environment. Safe environment. That's what we're trying to do.
I would be the worst person for this.
Anyone else? Yeah. Right, okay. Try again.
Okay. Do I repeat?
Oh, first.
Yeah.
Okay.
from the
Okay, no
beginning,
worries.
yeah.
I live in the Netherlands for 9 months. My great-great-grandma was Japanese. And I actually was born in Japan, but then I moved around 2 years old. I moved to Peru and I spent my childhood there.
Okay.
So, the truth, well, one is the lie, obviously. So, I think the lie, do we have any ideas what the lie might be?
That you lived in the Netherlands for 9 months.
No.
So that's the truth.
That's the truth.
Eliminated that
You lived in
one.
the Netherlands for 9 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Okay.
Nice.
So, we go clockwise.
You have to guess.
Oh.
I don't know. What you said about your grandmother?
Was Japanese.
Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh.
So you were born in Japan.
So the lie is
I was born in Japan.
so you're not Japanese.
No.
Right. Okay, so we figured that out. So, my first car was a Lexus. I rode a camel, and my favourite team is Liverpool.
Okay.
Which one is the lie?
A camel.
Camel.
Unanimous.
The Lexus.
The car.
The car, correct. My first car was a Nissan. I did indeed ride a camel. They're very uncomfortable. So, who's next? Really?
Next. My first car was a Mini Cooper. I've won an award for football and I've met the Dalai Lama.
Mini Cooper. Is it a
Mini Cooper. Football. I mean,
I think
don't know.
you've met the Dalai Lama.
like Donegal were good at football for a while.
Yeah,
I mean-
it's the Mini Cooper. I haven't. My first car wasn't a Mini Cooper.
Oh.
So what was your first car? The Dalai Lama.
No, it was a Ford Fiesta.
What was your award for football?
I got selected on the All-Star team for Ulster.
Very good.
Oh my
Nice.
God.
I thought Donegal were good for a while.
Solid.
It was soccer.
It was soccer.
Jeez, I didn't even know you played soccer over there.
Yeah,
There you go.
there you go.
Great. Thank you, Connor. Is he from Donegal?
He is.
He is. There you go. Gary.
So I will start by saying that I love to cook. I'm not really into music, and I think spiders are probably my favourite animal.
Okay.
I hope it's the spiders.
That's what? Truth or?
That is the lie. I think spiders.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
spider.
I think it's the spiders.
You don't like
No,
to
the
cook.
lie-
You don't
the
like
lie
to,
is
the
music.
lie is you don't like to cook.
No.
The lie-
Oh yes.
The
No,
lie is
yeah,
you
the lie.
don't like music.
You are into music.
Yeah.
Yes. So
You
also
love-
like spiders?
Oh, I love them. Yeah, they're so cool.
The big ones. Oh.
Yeah, the bigger the better.
There you go.
No.
Don't you know this is why we call him Spider-Man? Very good. Okay. Next.
Perfect. I've broken every single one of my fingers. I was the biggest baby in the hospital I was born in, ever. And I've never learned how to ride a bike.
Oh, I don't. Which one insults you less?
I'd say
You broke us. No, the baby.
The baby's a truth, and so is the finger. I'd say you don't know how to ride a bike.
You're right. That's a lie. I do know how to ride a bike. I was the biggest baby born in the hospital ever.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
Great. Moving on. That's mad.
Yeah.
What size? What?
I was 12 pounds 3.
Wow.
Yeah, I was also 3 weeks.
You get a little medal.
Yeah. I was in the newspaper. I was in like the Times, like the big newspaper.
I can't believe it.
Baby
Yeah.
times.
Wow. Okay, great. So far, before we move on today, we've learned that Gary loves spiders.
Yeah.
I've ridden a camel. You're definitely not Japanese.
No.
You were very good at soccer. And you were in the paper.
Yeah.
There you go. Aidan, how can you not top this?
Can't top it. So, what did I say? I really like dogs. My favourite thing to order in a Chinese is sweet and sour chicken.
The safety part.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And my favourite band is Metallica.
Your favourite band is not Metallica.
Yeah.
It's not my paddy.
No.
So, let's recap. Yes, we leave that there. Very good, okay guys, that's really well done. Yes, so I think the final truth is we all had a good time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Once you have facilitated this icebreaker, you should then introduce the learning outcomes for the workshop and give a breakdown of the timings for the day. The learning outcomes for this workshop are presented here. By the end of this workshop, participants will know more about the different stages of the process of coming out for both the parent and the child. Participants will have a mutual respect for the process and what it involves, and will know that the coming out process is different for everyone. Participants will have developed their communication skills, be able to think more critically about gender, and be more empathetic. Participants will have developed an attitude of being open and learning about gender identity. Participants will understand that the coming out is individual to each person and is a non-linear process, and participants will be more willing to challenge stereotypes of gender identity. After you outline the learning outcomes of the workshop, it is important to reassure parents that they are free to ask questions at any time. Remind them that everything that is said in the workshop remains confidential and should not be spoken about outside of the training session. If the workshop is online, it is important that participants are wearing headphones and are sitting somewhere quiet where no one will overhear the workshop conversation. This is due to the sensitivity of the topic. It is then time to get into the core content of the workshop, which is the process of coming out for both parents and child. The first part of the workshop will cover the process of coming out from the perspective of the parents. We will cover this content next.
Parents should be reassured that having a child who is questioning their identity is not because of anything they may have done or not done. Parents are not responsible for a child's gender identity, as gender is hardwired at birth. It is also important to recognize that whatever way the parent feels about their child coming out, it is perfectly valid. They may feel one way now, but remember to guide the parents and inform them that they may not feel that particular way always. As a trainer, you should emphasize that using the right language can be challenging for parents and others, and it's okay to make mistakes. Parents should not be afraid to reiterate to their child that they are trying their best and that even if they make mistakes, they will try to learn and inform themselves. If a parent does make a mistake, they should apologize and correct themselves if they can. Reassure parents that it is okay to make mistakes. Let them know that although it is important to accept their child, they will probably make mistakes along the way, and this is perfectly normal and does not make them a bad parent. If they do so, something that their child feels is unhelpful, reassure them that this is okay and that it happens. Tell them that they should not be afraid to acknowledge that mistakes will happen, but that they should apologize and reassure their child that they are trying to learn and that they do not mean to say the wrong thing, but that it will take time for them to get things right. When it comes to pronouns and how their child wants to be referred to, the best thing for the parent to do is to ask them. That way, the parent will be referring to their child in the way they wish to be referred to. Parents should recognize that coming out can be a big moment for a child, and it may have taken a long time for them to do so. Acknowledge this. Respect a child's wishes. If they want to tell others, let them. If they wish to keep it confidential for now, please also respect that. No matter what it is, it's important to let their child know that the parent loves them. For some parents, their child's coming out will be a complete shock, and for others, it may have been something that they previously thought about. As a trainer, you should reiterate that the coming out of a child is a huge thing for a parent, even if they were expecting it. This can feel like a grief that parents must go through. It's not comparable to a death as such, but more a grief as to what has changed and a loss for what may have been. The life that the parent may have imagined for their child is now different, and this may take a while to come to terms with. This is all a part of the process. It is okay to feel sad at this change, and it is important to remember that this process is not linear and will be different for every parent. It is important as a trainer that you deal with this topic of grief and change extremely sensitively. Some parents may feel like they have lost a child, while others may feel they have gained another child. It is important to focus on this process for the parents and encourage parents to ask questions on the topic. Not only is it a challenging situation for parents, but it is also an extremely challenging situation for the child who is also processing change and the loss of their old identity and what they may have been. Learning to embrace their new identity and what lies ahead for them may be both scary and exciting. As a trainer, you should strongly emphasize that parents also deal with the coming out of a child in different ways. One parent may receive the information completely differently to another. One may be accepting of their child, while another parent may feel the complete opposite. It is also important that parents learn to navigate a discussion between themselves about how they will deal with this issue. The trainer should describe the parents as being on a line of acceptance. Some parents will be further along the line than others, and this is constantly changing over time, and parents may move up or down the line at different stages and different speeds. As a trainer, you should emphasize that this is completely normal and that this process takes time and it cannot be forced. The best way for parents and anyone in general to learn to accept a child's new gender identity is to try to learn and educate themselves as best they can. This information should come from respected sources and not just any online source, as there is a lot of misinformation online which is not helpful. It can also help for parents to seek out support from services and organizations who work on the topic on gender identity, as they will have a range of books, leaflets, and other resources available. There will also be support services that may direct face-to-face supports or email or phone supports where parents can confidentially discuss any concerns or questions they may have. You should remind the parent that they may be feeling fear and confusion about the child's future, but that it's perfectly okay. Remind them that their child may also have this fear and confusion, that it is important for both parties to have patience with each other. This is a new process for everyone, and it will take time and patience to navigate it. Participants of your workshop may fear change and the unknown. Some parents may worry about what others will say, like neighbors, family members, grandparents, friends, etc. There is no doubt that many people will have questions and that some of these may be uncomfortable. But remember, as parents, they do not have to have all the answers. Remember that all a parent can do is educate others. They cannot control others' reactions to their child's gender identity. Parents should remind their child that some people will embrace their new gender, while others may not be as accepting as it is. This is a process of change, and there are different stages of that, and it may take time. There should be no pressure to rush this process. Ask them to consider what is more important, the unhelpful opinions of others or the happiness and acceptance of their child. You should remind parents that people fear what they do not understand, and the only way to combat fear is through learning and educating yourself about gender identity, while also reminding yourself that there is a lot of misinformation out there and it can be challenging to navigate. Informing yourself about gender identity is a constant process, just as with any other topic. Information is constantly changing and conversations constantly evolving, so be mindful of this and try to keep abreast of changes and developments in how we talk about gender identity. As a trainer, you should repeat throughout the workshop that the parent may never understand what it means to question their gender identity, but that they do not have to. All they have to do is to try to be as supportive as they've always been of their child. Tell the parent to work with their child to find appropriate services to support all of them through this process. Coming out can be challenging for the whole family and may impact everyone's mental health, particularly the child who is coming out.
Once you have outlined this information to the parents in your workshop, you will then take the parents through an activity which will help them to practice their communication skills, particularly their active listening skills. The activity will take 25 minutes and the trainer will need sticky notes and pens for participants. To deliver this activity, welcome the participants and briefly explain the importance of effective communication and how it is an important skill for parents to have. Explain that active listening is vital in building stronger relationships and enhancing understanding between parents and their children. Divide the participants into small groups of 3 to 4 people. Distribute sticky notes and pens to each group. Ask each group to brainstorm and write down common barriers to effective listening between parents and children on their sticky notes. Collect the sticky notes and place them on a flip chart or whiteboard, grouping similar barriers together. You should then facilitate a brief discussion about the identified barriers, emphasizing the impact that they can have on communication and relationships. Explain and discuss the key principles of active listening, such as maintaining eye contact, using open and inviting body language, nodding, and avoiding interrupting. You will explain that eye contact is important because it signals your attentiveness and shows that you value what they are saying. It fosters a sense of connection and trust between both parties. Using open and inviting body language such as uncrossed arms, relaxed posture, shows that you are receptive and interested in the conversation. Nodding occasionally while the speaker is talking indicates that you are actively listening and following their conversation. Avoiding interrupting the speaker allows them to express their thoughts in their own time without you adding your input too soon. As a trainer, you will then instruct the participants to pair up with a partner. You will set a timer for 5 minutes and ask each participant to take turns being the speaker and the listener. As the speaker, participants should choose a topic such as their favourite hobby. As the listener, participants should actively employ the following techniques. 1. Maintain eye contact by looking directly at the speaker and avoiding distractions to show attentiveness and respect. 2. Use open and inviting body language by sitting facing the speaker and keeping arms and legs uncrossed to convey openness and interest. 3. Gently nod occasionally to indicate understanding and encouragement towards the speaker. And 4. Avoid interrupting by allowing the speaker to express their thoughts fully without prematurely cutting them off. After 5 minutes, ask the participants to switch roles. Once both partners have had a chance to practice, bring the participants back together and facilitate a brief discussion about their experiences of active listening. Emphasize to participants that even though this topic is a neutral one, the act of active listening remains the same, and it can be easier to practice it using a neutral topic. However, the same principles apply even when talking about something sensitive like gender identity. Encourage participants to continue practicing and applying active listening techniques with their children.
So guys, we have had a brief discussion about the common barriers to effective listening between maybe a parent and child, or just in general adults and the younger generation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your sticky pads and we're going to stick them on the board here, and we'll then try and group them together and we can discuss them, okay? So I'm going to put mine up first. So I have got the general generational difference. We discussed these after, so maybe a busy day. Parents don't take kids seriously. Kids don't feel comfortable around parents on certain topics. Parents don't understand new ways of life. Parents think young generation are silly and needy. And kids are too old. No, sorry, kids think parents are too old. Okay. So, would you like to hand me these? So here we have 2. Lack of education on current issues that young people face today. Excellent. And relationship issues within the family home could lead to lack of communication and understanding. Nice. May I?
Yes.
Ooh, you've been a busy beaver. Lack of understanding. Nice. Resistance to authority. That's a good one. Yes. Unpredictable emotions. Absolutely. Lack of empathy. Yes. And difficult family dynamics. Okay, so we're already starting to see some common themes here. Barriers to communicate is a fear of being honest and getting in trouble. Absolutely. Afraid it will cause an argument. That is true. Lack of understanding. And not enough time for conversation. Yeah, this is good. Good stuff, guys. Thank you. Children not trusting their parents. Ooh, Gary. The difference between when parents were young and the children are now. Yes. And a lack of understanding from each side. So we're seeing a clear lack of understanding. And thank you so much. This is the final ones. Not show example what they ask for. Okay. And showing a preference between siblings. That is a great one, actually. That is so common. And not offering confidence to the child. Excellent. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25. 25 sticky notes. So let's see. I immediately found a lack of understanding. So we've got lack of understanding, lack of empathy, similar. We grouped them together. Lack of empathy, okay. Lack of understanding from each side, yes. Showing a preference, not showing an example of what they asked for. Did we see another one? Lack of understanding, yes. So we've got 4, lack of understanding. Parents don't take things seriously. Parents don't understand you. Yeah, parents don't understand new ways of life. So the main one here is, I think pretty much everyone has actually listed lack of understanding as, that for me is the most common barrier. And that can be a two-way street. It's a lack of understanding. Parents don't understand the children, and children don't understand the parents. It's amazing with families, you live with these people, and yet you don't know who they are in many ways, and they don't know who you are, and when these two things collide, it can get messy, which leads to afraid it will cause an argument. This is a great one, right? Because I know a lot of family dynamics, it can be, you just don't want the hassle, right? Nobody wants the hassle of an argument. Now this actually coincides with, there was another one here, maybe relationship issues within the family home could lead to a lack of communication and understanding again. So this again will go down here, but I think we can group afraid it will cause an argument. Why do you think people in a family unit are afraid it will cause an argument? What do you think is the main reason why someone would be afraid of an argument?
Because emotions can be quite unpredictable and people don't like to face conflict or anger.
For me, I don't like to have an argument because generally I lose. Generally I lose arguments, so I say I'm not partaking in it. That's not good either though. You should be willing to lose. You should be, that's how open conversations, you should be, okay, I can't win this. I think a lot of times when I'm going into an argument, and I know I'm going into an argument, I'm expecting too much from the other side. I'm expecting them to be maybe rational and to be fair. I mean, we will briefly discuss empathy later on, but I'm always trying to see things from the other side of people, and I've been let down many times in the past from people not doing the same. So I tend to lose. I go into battles trying to see the other point of view, and it never works for me. That's my own personal thing, and that comes maybe down to whatever kind of people I've had in my life in the past, that kind of way. Parents think their generation are silly and needy. Would people agree with that? The young generation are silly and needy? We often hear this, don't we? Yeah. Oh, in my day. Oh, in my day. How many times do you hear that of your parents? Or how many times are you beginning to say that? So I think, I don't know where that will come under, but I like this one, resistance to authority. That's quite interesting. We've all encountered people like that. So that will definitely be a definite barrier. The difference between when parents were young, I think that comes under a generation. So kids don't feel comfortable around parents on certain topics, or parents don't take kids seriously. I think that's fair enough under generation. Back in my day. A busy day. This one for me is interesting. I wrote this one. I think this is interesting because I think parents and children are different, okay? And when children are young, they expect parents to be a certain level of consistency, but sometimes parents just have really, really bad days. Really, really bad days. They might have a bad day at work, they might have, just a bad day in general, but they don't explain this to the child, and it then can cause problems, or it can cause arguments. Where did I put that? Because suddenly the child thinks, well, where did my consistent person go here? And they don't quite understand. So I think if parents were able to explain what their day was like. This is a two-way street as well. We all have bad days in school, right? And I think a lot of the time parents might think, oh, he or she's being moody or whatever, but maybe they've had a busy day too. So I think this can have a real effect on the family dynamic and why maybe it's difficult to
It's a lack of understanding as well.
It is a lack of understanding as well. You're absolutely right. I think this has been the clear winner here, lack of understanding. Unpredictable emotions, this comes back to consistency as we just talked. That's for me a busy day. Lack of education on current issues that affect young people today. Again, generational difference maybe. Yeah. I think we've all experienced that, and maybe I think you always like to think that when we're going to be parents or whatever that we won't be like that, but it seems to be a common theme through the generations. Children not trusting their parents. That again, understanding. Do the children not understand? I think it's safe to say that the biggest barrier here we're talking about to communication is understanding. Would we agree?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any points that they'd like to make, or if there are any points that they made here that they would like to share? This one's a great one, showing a preference between siblings. This extends to even cousins and stuff like that. You know, oh, don't you know your cousin's going on to do a degree? What are you doing at home? Kind of, you know, we've all had that. I think that's awful. Actually, I really don't agree with that. I think that's really, really. I think it's lazy. I think that's lazy parenting. I think that's just, you know, you're a certain person and you're a certain person, and that's just how I'm going to, and that can continue over years. And I mean, I've often seen my aunties and uncles and stuff, and them things are still them. What's the word I'm looking for? Characters that they put on people are still there. You know, so oh, she's the funny one, and he's the moody one, and oh, he's a flake, and oh, she's done really well in life. You know, and that's been growing up, and so that can affect people right into the rabbit hole as well. So, yeah. So, what do you think? Do we agree the biggest barrier that we've come here is just understanding?
Yeah.
And would you like to share anything? Anybody else, or are we happy to close the session?
Kind of got everything there.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that, guys. That's excellent. Cheers. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video so far, and for covering the content for parents. In this next section, we will introduce the process of coming out for the child. For some young people, coming out can be confusing, scary, lonely, exciting, or overwhelming, or all of the above. The important thing as a trainer is to remind parents that any and all feelings their child might have are valid and important. Coming out is a different experience for everyone, and there is no one right way to do it. A person can only do it in a way that feels most right to them as an individual. It's good to note that coming out is not a once-off event, but rather a lifelong process. It is a non-linear process, and things may change along the way, which is also perfectly fine. Remind parents that children need to give themselves time to think about what is right for them and how they want to exist in the world. Accepting your gender identity can be a long process, of course. It is different for everyone, but for some it can follow somewhat similar stages, along the lines of discovery, acceptance, and embracement. We will visit each of these stages next. The process of someone realizing their gender identity can be overwhelming. As a trainer, you should reassure the parent that the period a child may go through before coming out can be a really enlightening and exciting one, as well as a scary or nervous time. During this time, a person gets to define their own identity, or lack thereof if the case may be. They get to question different things about themselves, without having to deal with the expectations or questions from the rest of society. This time is precious, and should be explained in that way to the parent. At this time, the child may still not be sure about what exactly their gender identity is. Confusion is okay, and it's important to remember that not everybody actually knows their gender identity or wants to define it either. This should be a constant reminder throughout the workshop from trainers, as pressure surrounding labels is not helpful in the coming out process. They do not have to fit into a box to please others, and that is a crucial point to remember as the child progresses through the stages of coming out. It is also really important to remember to put an emphasis on the child taking their time and moving at a pace they feel comfortable with whilst exploring their gender identity. This may include trying different names or pronouns, and also trying out different ways of walking, talking, or dressing. Or it may not, and that is okay too. During the discovery stage of gender identity, keep in mind that transitioning is not always necessarily medical. If transitioning is something that is on a person's mind, it's good to be aware that this means changing the way they present their identity to society. Transitioning can be social, legal, or medical. There are several ways of changing your appearance and voice without actually medically changing your body. Socially transitioning is when they can really begin to live their true self. Dealing with fear or stigma or shame on your own can be very difficult during the discovery process. Reminders that they are not alone are needed. There are supports out there to help people navigate this if they need them. Remind parents that for the majority, coming out is a positive experience and one they may look back on as the best thing they ever did. The act of coming out means sharing your sexual orientation and/or gender identity with people in your life, for example, friends or family. As a trainer, you should reassure parents that coming out takes many forms and will be dependent on what the individual feels comfortable with. It is also very important to convey that there is no one best time to come out. The right time is when they are ready. Some people may be happy to come out to a group of people at one time, and some may want to tell just one person. The journey of acceptance is different for every individual. The child may also be ready to come out to a certain part of their gender identity and not ready to come out about other aspects. Reminding them that this is their story to tell and do what feels right to them is vital. At this stage of coming out, there can be a lot of fear around telling people and how they will be received. As a trainer, you should be aware that the child's acceptance for themselves may change, especially if their coming out experience wasn't received as they'd hoped for or expected. Here, it is important as a trainer to communicate that the child is not alone in this journey and that others' reactions are out of their control. As difficult as it may be for the child not to get the response they'd have hoped for in coming out, it is important to remind them that this doesn't define them, and they should still be encouraged to accept themselves for who they are. Acceptance is generally what leads a person to come out about their gender identity. They feel ready to talk about their feelings and emotions and how they perceive themselves in the world. As a trainer, you should also emphasize that the way a person defines their gender is not a stagnant thing. It can change throughout their lives many times, and assure the parents that this is also okay. As a trainer, remind parents to continue to give the child time to navigate their feelings and emotions through this process. Emphasize the importance of encouraging the child to practice self-love and compassion throughout this stage of coming out. Similar to the advice trainers should give parents to continue to inform themselves about gender identity in order to support their child to the best of their abilities, it's important for the child themselves to be reminded to continue to learn about themselves. Their journey of self-discovery does not end after the coming out process, so remind them to continue to learn and explore different aspects about their gender identity. There can be feelings of confusion and fear about what comes next after a child comes out. Questions like, what's next, can be overwhelming for a child. Trainers should reiterate the advice given to parents. It takes time and patience to navigate through such a new process, and they can only go at a pace that feels right to them. The most important thing is that they feel comfortable with the process and happy in their own journey. Trainers should encourage parents to help the child to find the appropriate support and services in their locality to avail of further advice and guidance.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our lesson on the process of coming out for the child. Next, we will present you with an activity you should use with parents to help them practice empathy. The activity should take approximately 20 minutes to complete. The objective of this activity is to engage participants in an interactive and hands-on experience that promotes empathy and understanding towards others. For this activity, you will need paper, pens or pencils, and sticky notes for all participants. Welcome the participants and briefly explain the importance of empathy and its role in building connections and fostering understanding. Emphasize that empathy involves putting oneself in someone else's shoes and seeing the world from their perspective. To deliver this activity, divide the participants into pairs if numbers allow. If there is an odd number, there can be a group of 3. Distribute the pens, paper and sticky notes to participants. Instruct each pair to select one person as the mapper and the other as the subject. Ask each group to create an empathy map. An empathy map consists of 4 quadrants: see, hear, think and feel, and say and do. The subject should start by telling a story about a time that someone came to them with a problem. Ask the mapper to imagine they are the subject and to fill in each quadrant based on what they think the subject might see, hear, think and feel, and say and do if one of their friends or family members came to them very upset after having a bad day. Encourage them to consider the subject's emotions, thoughts, actions, and external influences. After they are finished, have the pairs switch roles, with the mapper becoming the subject and vice versa. Instruct them to create another empathy map for the new subject. Bring the participants back together as a group. Ask a few pairs to share their empathy maps and briefly share different things that came up for them. Encourage participants to reflect on the insights gained from creating the empathy maps and how it helped them better understand the perspectives of others. Provide each participant with a sticky note. Ask them to write down one key insight or realization they gained about empathy during this activity. Ask them to stick their notes on a designated board or wall so that the participants' notes are displayed at the end. Conclude the activity by summarizing the importance of empathy and understanding. Explain to participants that empathy and understanding are crucial for building and maintaining positive relationships and for practicing effective communication, as they allow us to connect on a deeper level, validate each other's emotions, and experience mutual respect and trust. By practicing empathy, individuals can mend differences, resolve conflicts constructively, and then create an environment of trust and compassion. Then encourage participants to carry the empathy insights they gained during this activity into their own daily lives, showing more empathy towards others and themselves.
That was a very fruitful session on the empathy map. You all filled your maps out, and myself and Gary will present our empathy maps. So, Gary's story was about his friend, not a very close friend, just somewhere between acquaintance and friend, who came to him not feeling himself. Okay, so the idea of this was I had to put myself in Gary's shoes, which are quite big compared to mine. Anyway, so what did I see through Gary's mind? Well, first of all, it was a little bit awkward to begin with because Gary's friend Ryan actually called him first. Okay, so this is a little bit difficult because you don't have initial body language to work off. Exactly. So I would imagine Gary was feeling a little bit slightly more lost in the beginning. Yeah. Because he couldn't see, essentially. It was only a call. So this changed then. What did he hear? Well, this is the thing about a phone call, is because that's what you do in a phone call, you listen. And it's probably when you're on a call, you actually actively listen more than not, because it's your only medium available to you. So he could hear his tone of voice. Ryan's tone of voice was off, and he didn't sound himself. Okay, so this would have made Gary feel a little bit maybe uncomfortable, maybe, uneasy, and it was only when Ryan came over to his house that he could somewhat relax a little bit, because he could now see him when he came over. And this is when he had to think and do. So what does he think and do? Well, now that he can see him, he thinks to himself that he really should calm down, thinks Ryan should calm down, okay? Should calm down, and then once he's calm, he should maybe talk to a professional. So once calm, talk to a professional. But the whole idea here with Gary was that he could calm him down. I can't spell professional. He should calm down, and when he was calm, when Ryan was more calm, he could see things maybe a little bit more clearly, which in turn helped Gary see things a little bit more clearly. And he was able to see that Ryan laughed at certain stages, and laughing is of course one of the best antidepressants. that you can do, and that's great. Ryan laughed. So, and then say and do, well, he just sent him away in a better mood. So that's how I saw it with Gary. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hey, am I in and around the ballpark figure there?
Hit the nail on the head, Mike. That was great stuff.
Hit the nail on the head. Yeah. Great. So, would you like to go through my situation with Eamon and his troubles with his lady?
Yes.
Great.
Why not?
There's the pens on it. I'll take your seat there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
I think we could all give Mike a round of applause, everybody. I think that was a great job.
Thank you. Nice touch.
Okay, so from what Mike had told me, his neighbour Eamon came over recently and paid him a visit. Now, unfortunately, this visit wasn't a very pleasant one. So, first of all, see, Eamon paid a visit. So he came over to Mike with a bit of a problem, and Mike had actually mentioned to us earlier that him and Eamon aren't necessarily the best of acquaintances themselves, not that they don't get along, but that they're neighbours, you know, like you only see them maybe a couple of times a week, you say hello, he waves to them, that's it, you know. So Mike was a little bit taken back that Eamon had come to him with a problem. So what did Mike hear? So Mike heard that unfortunately Eamon believed his fiancée was seeing somebody else. So obviously everybody can kind of put themselves in their shoes. It's not a very comfortable position to be in. It's a hard conversation to navigate. So how did Mike feel? So Mike said he felt a bit awkward. Which I think is understandable. I think everybody would feel like that in that situation. But also he did say he felt a little bit curious, and I don't think that was curious in the general sort of sense, but that he was curious to see how Eamon had thought this, how Eamon kind of came to this conclusion that his fiancée was seeing somebody else. And unfortunately then, what did he see? So Eamon then showed Mike some pictures, some kind of questionable pictures involving his fiancée and this mysterious other person in question. So, unfortunately, it didn't look too good for Eamon, but Mike had mentioned that, you know, what he should do would be to maybe not be going through her phone anymore in the future, to maybe discuss the problem with her up front to see, is this actually the case? Was it just a friend? Did he just get this situation completely wrong? And yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to check it back in with Mike at some point to see how that conversation went. But from our brief discussion, that's basically what I got from that. Is that somewhere I'd accurate, Mike?
That's bang on.
Yes?
That's actually great. So.
Okay, cool.
So, thanks for that, Gary. That's great. So,
Thank you, Mike.
I hope we've kind of shown how this works, and that you can put yourself in somebody else's shoes and not necessarily feel how they feel, but get a sense of how they feel. And if you can take this and you can apply it to the rest of your daily life, it should really help both you and anyone you are in conversation with. Look, thanks for your participation on this one.
To conclude this workshop with parents, reiterate that this is a lifelong journey and that there is truly no right or wrong way to come out. Remind parents that they will make mistakes along the way, but that as long as they are open, honest, willing to learn and willing to correct themselves, this is okay. Repeat how both parent and child will need time and space along the way to reflect on their own feelings and emotions. Remind parents that everybody's coming out story is unique and that there is no real timeline for how they or their children will or should feel. Reiterate the importance of practicing empathy, self-love and self-compassion at all points during the coming out process. At the end of this workshop, ask the whole group to participate in a reflection exercise. If needed, distribute more paper or sticky notes and ask participants to write down the most significant thing they have learned from the workshop and, if applicable, how they will use it going forward in their own lives. And finally, you should thank the participants for coming to the workshop, for listening to the content and for engaging in the activities. You are then free to conclude the workshop after this point. Thank you for watching this video presentation of our workshop for parents. We hope you have found it informative and useful. For more information or to review other modules developed as part of this training package, please visit the video library for trainers available through the Gender 101 online platform.